And I tried to get some of that up. Most of my stuff was still pretty much what, all of us knew. But there were more and more bits which came out, and now, of course, we've got, I don't know how many thousand pages you have on your website. 10,000, 6,000? There's a lot. There's a lot of pages of information out there.
5 digits.
5 digits. Okay, so having access to all of that information that just wasn't there back in the dark days, the infant days of the web, is great. So I think I want to give Tom another round of applause for that. So I don't think would be able to answer the questions that other people would, but certainly I'd love to meet all of you. I'll be on the bus later on as well. So, yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the Zodiac webmasters are all really tall, I guess. David's going to take over.
Okay, so we're ready to move on to our next speaker, who is David Madsen. And if you've seen the movie Copycat, starring Holly Hunter and Sigourney Weaver, then you're familiar with his work. He's a writer and a true crime buff. So here's David Madsen.
I should have told you you were next. Yeah. I forgot to tell David he was next. Sorry about that.
Hi, everybody. Not quite sure what my role is here, because I know you want to get to the meat of the case, and I guess I'll do anything for a free bus trip. So I'm a writer, and I write novels and movies, and I wrote a movie Copycat a few years ago, which was about a man who's copying the most notorious serial killers in American history, and the women who catch him. So I don't have any original research to contribute. I was working on an essay that I just kind of will breeze through here, which kind of sums up for me what this case was about. And it's kind of like the Zodiac vibe, I guess would be what I would describe here. If you're looking back at those times, then they seem kind of amusingly iconic now. White Rabbit, George Harrison's photo op on Haight Street, Bill Graham handing out apples at the Fillmore, paisley painted summer solstice parties, but walking among the hippies and tourists then, perhaps unnoticed because his glasses and short hair and dark coat were still standard male fashion, was a man who would call himself the Zodiac. He bided his time during that summer of love when I was in junior high. My friends and I, we would sneak out of our comfortable suburban lives and pilgrimage up here to the Haight, to Golden Gate Park. Well, unaware, we didn't know this was going to happen, and whoever he was, he finally exploded that in that lovely turnout 40 years ago today. Then the letters, I remember reading them in my local paper. They were taunting and they were distant at the same time. He had a workmanlike focus on the mechanical details of his murders, which I found disgusting. And then there was the frustrating codes and clues to his identity. And really, for me then, I think those 10 months, that was the first time I really knew fear. I lived down in the peninsula. It was not a scary place to grow up. This thing gripped me then, and it still does. Then I was in junior high, and then I became a freshman in high school, and I knew something else was going on, something deeper, but I really didn't know it then. But looking back, I realized that by knife and by gunfire, something was happening to the Bay Area. The Aquarian Age, as brief as it was here, was coming to an end, and I think Zodiac had a lot to do with that. My participation in it as a weekend hippie and a wannabe and a guy that just liked to listen to music, I knew that was going to end too. Because I think he was killing the 60s by killing its youth. And anyone who was a teenager back then, I think you can still bring up the sense memories. Driving through the empty, unsubdivided hills at night with your learner's permit in your pocket, an illegal six-pack acquired for courage on the front seat next to you, checking the rearview mirror, wondering why those headlights seemed to be following a little too closely. We did that night after night after night. Maybe we were trying to become targets, maybe we just thought we'd be the guys, that we'd find this guy. I don't know, but it was a way to plunge yourself into fear and to come alive with that fear. Is how that fear imprints itself easily on a young person, and you can call it up again very, very easily. And I tried to access and universalize that fear when I wrote Copycat, which is, if you haven't seen it, it's set in San Francisco. And it's only set in San Francisco. I wrote the original script in San Francisco only because of the Zodiac. Not because of romantic foghorns or, an homage to Bullet or Vertigo or anything like that, because it's the site of the scariest unsolved mystery I know. And I wanted that sense of kind of frightening unfinished business to permeate the movie. I wanted the movie's atmosphere to be about uncertainty. Zodiac was a motif. If the cops couldn't catch him, maybe they couldn't catch my fictional killer. So it kind of dramatically stacked the deck against my team of cops and psychiatrists, knowing they lived in the city that could never catch the Zodiac. I had a lot of scenes in my script in which my killer painstakingly duplicates the Stein murders, but for reasons that were told to me that were creative, I think they were financial, they were cut out of the movie. But they weren't cut out of me. And so when I found Tom's site, it was kind of like coming home again. And because he was never caught, I think Zodiac it's kind of like the boogeyman who transcends generations. I mean, he could be that stranger sitting in the car across the street who may or may not be watching your house. He could be that mystery caller who leaves those unsettling silences on your voicemail. Every night I wondered, those could be his footsteps following me home at night. Retreating only when you are safely back inside and you throw the deadbolt. So, in many ways, I think, because I encountered that story when I was really young, over the years, the Zodiac has kind of personified all my fears about, what bizarre twists of evil men are capable of creating. Those fears are still with me today, and for those of you who take the bus ride tonight, I'm sure they will be with you.
Thank you, David. Jackson just talked about the Stone Age of the internet and so forth. When I first logged on, there was hardly any information. I saw Copycat and heard Zodiac mentioned in the script, and I just said, I don't care how this movie ends. This is a favorite of mine because it was so rare. That original Zodiac movie spelled Paul Avery's name wrong, and he was like, in the opening credits, special thanks to Paul A-V-O-R-Y or something. They couldn't even spell his name right. The Dirty Harry movie didn't use the name Zodiac. They changed it to Scorpio. So there was just, when I finally heard Zodiac, I jumped off my couch. It was because of him. So that's David Manson. I don't care if you don't have original research. I'll just never forget that you were the guy that did that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, they did keep the scene in which Holly Hunter gripes about, they couldn't even catch the Zodiac.
Yeah. Thanks, David. And David's on the bus tonight. And before we go, there's something else. It's kind of a surprise. A lot of people, and nobody knows about this actually. Ricardo is mentioned in the brochure via the website mk-zodiac.com. Now, it's a work in progress. This is totally new information, and Ricardo is going to tell us about something special that's going to happen on the bus